to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. Special shout out, of course, to our family on Patreon. We do release more videos on there, than here. We have a few books and stuff that we're also releasing on there. So if you want to join us, go ahead and consider joining us for as little as $2 a month. The links are down below. And I'm no longer doing the news. A lot of people have been reaching out, but I do share news on Patreon, of course, because it was part of my system. So, but I really feel we need to be getting out of that matrix as much as possible. And today, I just want to come with a word of warning, beloveds, especially to those who have children, especially to those who have who are guardianing, who are supposed to be guiding and protecting our future ones, our future leaders, our future societies, that social media, beloveds, is weaponized, is fully weaponized against us now. I know many people have already figured this out, but it is fully weaponized, and they are doing everything they can to control the global narrative and to kind of influence and fixate and keep under their control the attention and perception of the people. They want to tell us what is emerging in the world. It's so crazy, beloveds, when I see people wearing those facial diapers in the middle of like a village in Zion where the sun is shining. I mean, someone just Mzungu just came and told you this and this and this, and then all of a sudden you've changed your entire way of life. Is because the narrative now, they use this, and it was, and to be honest, things like YouTube, etc., here we are, and many other of these platforms, they really, for the last 10, 15 years, they have been very instrumental in awakening many people, but now, especially, and in spreading really alternative information and bringing us collectively together. So those of us who were part of the first, second, third wave, we were able to benefit from that. But now, if you even look at what like this platform is recommending to you, like I get so many recommendations for like lesbian channels. It's either lesbian channels, multiracial relationships, and it's usually a black woman and a white man. I've actually never seen the other combination, of a white woman and a black man. Those aren't promoted as much. But it's just like whenever I go into my feed of the videos YouTube is recommending, I can see that they are pushing a certain agenda, or they'll be also pushing the agenda of this great experiment that they're carrying out on humanity. If I look at Twitter here in Kenya, when, because like a lot of, and thank God not so many people are on social media, but the scary thing is a lot of our youth are seeing it. It's now like the cool thing, or the thing that, the rich have, or whatever, the people they want to be like. A lot of them are rushing to be on social media, which is now weaponized. But I even see it with Twitter, where you'll see like what's trending in Twitter in Kenya sometimes just doesn't even make sense. Like a Biden or Kamala Harris will trend in Kenya, and it's not really what we're talking about, but then people will pick that up because they want their name to show up and they want their tweet to show up. So they are also driving the narrative to the point where they're even pushing the trends. And I mean, in African countries, politicians also pay, social media influencers and university students to make their topics trend. But all of this is being manipulated. Nothing is real. And they used a lot of the activists, a lot of the chosen ones to come onto these platforms and draw the people, because they have that, the chosen ones have that power, draw the people on there. And then now, so many chosen ones have either been kicked off the platform, they're being shadow banned. Only the spiritually strong the fittest of the fittest spiritually are actually still surviving on some of these platforms because their job is done. They got people on. And now, especially for the ones who don't know, who really don't know much about the awakening, because there's so many of our people who are coming online, beloveds, especially with everything that happened with the lockdowns from last year. Like people know everything is not all right. And there's something off about this whole situation. But now what's being happened is that there's so much information that is being pushed on these young ones, these young spiritual ones who are trying to just find their way out of the mental maze. And so you'll find people who are talking nonsense are promoted like crazy on various platforms, especially YouTube. And you'll see like someone who's saying zero will have, millions of views, etc., etc. So and will promote things that aren't true. So it's just like, because we're in the mental age and our mental capabilities are kind of coming online at such an accelerated rate, they are doing everything to distract, distort, delay that. Which is why we have to really now step away from social media. Because, beloveds, the more I've realized this, the more I am now even... like the way I'm operating on social media is totally different. Before, I'd go on, I'd just flip on the computer, check what's going on, put on my Wi-Fi, because I don't leave the Wi-Fi on. It shouldn't even be using Wi-Fi. We should really be using those wired connections. But, and I'd kind of go on and check what's happening. But now I move differently. I move spiritually. So I don't just go on there anymore to just see what's going on because I have a few idle minutes. No. I move with spiritual discernment, knowing what I want to do, because it's weaponized. And when I get onto that particular artificial matrix with spiritual and, with spiritual discernment, I will get the information I need, and I'll get in and I'll get out. And that's the level we need to reach, beloveds. You can't be on there allowing the various spirits of those platforms to direct you this way and that. Because let me tell you, all these things, Facebook is a spirit first. Instagram is a spirit. YouTube is a spirit. Everything happens spiritually before it happens physically. But you see, what's happening is that we're only seeing the physical. So we don't know what's influencing us spiritually behind. So what should we be doing now that social media has been weaponized? I'll get into that right after this.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Welcome back, beloveds, to the Dr. Mumbi Show. Wake Up Africa on Dr. Mumbi Live, however you want to see it. My name is Dr. Mumbi Seraki. We're talking about how social media has literally been weaponized against us, and we can see that now agendas are being blatantly pushed. The LGBTQ agenda. I mean, I find it all over my feed when I've never been interested in that. You know what I mean? Interracial relationships. All of these things are agendas that are being pushed forward. It's not like all of a sudden this is what our people are doing and this is the highest ideal. When we look even online, especially if you're now hooked to things like Twitter, there are certain agendas that are being pushed on Twitter, certain trends that will, that they want to get that energetic whatever globally. So they'll push like a Prince Philip trend, when no one really cares. And everyone will will think, oh my gosh, it's trending at number 2. Kenyans must really care about the death of Prince Philip. I'm just giving you an example. And so everyone now starts tweeting. This is how they're artificially creating the narrative and manipulating the narrative, because they have our minds. The narrative is not so much physically. I told you, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So many things happen spiritually before they come down physically. But because so many of us, the majority of people are disconnected, they're being used subconsciously. Subconsciously, their mind has already been programmed, and there's programs running in the background. So they are literally being controlled by sheep, and yet they feel like they're so free. They'll tell you, they have all these rights, etc., etc., because so much has been been done to mash up our minds. But now that social media has been weaponized, what should we be doing? The very first thing, beloveds, is do not allow your children to spend time, in front of the television, in front of the computer, etc., etc. Like really, really limit their interaction with these devices. I know for some, you have teenagers, it's too late or whatever, or you're just, you're living in the city. And so the way the life has been, oriented is it's so easy. And I'm not judging, it's so easy to just sit your child, especially in these apartment situations, sit your child in front of the TV and just allow them to be literally brainwashed and programmed all day because you're being kept busy doing this and that, But no, now, beloveds, we have to take our children back. And so you have to, at least if they're doing anything online, it should be, things that, all these, there's all these educational courses and puzzles and stuff that expand the mind. That's the kind of stuff. But you shouldn't be having them on there watching cartoons. Beloveds, a lot of these cartoons even have real spells in them. The cartoons have become really, really dark, and you can't tell, the subliminal message. Anything that your child is watching, you should watch first, or you should watch with them. And especially here in Africa, where a lot of people have it's not really a privilege, it's more like a handicap of having a maid or a cleaning lady, etc., etc. These are things we inherited from the Babylon system. Don't allow your maid to be the one that's, organizing your child's life, putting, stop that, beloveds. Really get your children out of the screens. And if you have teenagers, the way to deal with them is to start pushing them into more conscious stuff, because a lot of them are on a whole other different level. The children behind us, it's like warrior nations were now being born amongst the melanated people and maybe the global nations. And so we've seen more and more, children being born with more and more higher frequencies, higher mind, higher thinking, that it's harder for the system to get them. And so you'd be surprised. So the way to do it is to key your children onto, especially your teenagers, onto some of the revolutionary speakers of our time. The videos are still online. Direct them in that way. Direct them in learning about the history instead of just watching TV shows, etc., etc. Really get your children back, pull them out, and start to create a different narrative and story for them. For us, beloveds, don't believe everything you see. Don't believe when you see the top 30 things trending in your country. Don't believe that, and try not to engage try to disconnect as much as possible. Be very clear about why you're interacting with these applications, and don't be quick to join the trends, because you may actually be putting your energy to creating a narrative or an alternative for the Babylon system. And especially if you've awakened and you're in you're fully in yourself, it becomes, you have more power than the average person. Remember, I told you, some people have the power of one human. Some people have the power of 1,000,000. It all depends how much you've worked on yourself and you've elevated yourself. So don't allow yourself, especially if you've become, if you've awakened and you're working on your consciousness and you're really elevating yourself, try to comment as little as possible on what is happening in the Babylon matrix, because your voice can tip things over. Can push a trend further than it needs to go, etc., etc. Really, beloveds, make an active effort to kind of control what this matrix is giving you. But they'll still push those videos on you that really don't help. So it's very subtle the way it's being done. And so I really say, beloveds, the time has come for us to get away from the screens. It really has, or to limit it to such a small percentage of our day, a tiny percentage of our day. And it's important for us to recognize that not everyone is on social media, but the Babylon system has done everything to ensure that our youth get that mobile phone and have free wireless that they can log on, so that now they also become part of, so that they get into the brainwashing system. Social media is now dangerous, beloveds. That's how you should look at it. It's not a luxury anymore. It's not something you go to even really get information. It's a dangerous place. And so we have to move with the utmost discernment and really disconnect ourselves as much as possible, because a lot of it is an addiction, like Instagram, the Instagram of cocaine, just a quick Insta and you're hooked, you'll go back for more. So we have to recognize that it's developed habits in us, which are more like addictions. And so that's why it's better to start stepping away today, so that when it becomes increasingly weaponized, you won't get into it. Because even with the great experiment that everyone is participating, not everyone, but that they're trying to get everyone to participate in, a lot of the reason that a lot of our family members, etc., are falling for the great white lie is because of they're so hooked to social media and mainstream media, and certain, agendas are being pushed there. Let me know what you think in the comments. Until next time, tuko pamoja.